then that ketone body can just be released by the liver and put into the blood to fuel another tissue. If it's acetyl-CoA, then the acetyl-CoA will form ketone bodies, and then the ketone bodies get released. Okay? So keep in mind that all these processes that we're doing right now are occurring in the liver mostly. Okay? Now, if you're a glucogenic product, that implies that you either get degraded to pyruvate or some member of the latter part of the CCA cycle, which can ultimately be converted to oxaloacetate, and the oxaloacetate is your gluconeogenesis. So if you're a glucogenic product, that means that you can form glucose. Acetyl-CoA in general will not be used to form glucose. Acetyl-CoA is purely a ketogenic product, meaning that acetyl-CoA is funneled into ketone body biosynthesis. Now, the liver is doing these processes, right? So when the liver makes the glucose and it makes the ketone bodies, it dumps them into the blood, and then those products go throughout the blood to peripheral tissues and fuel them. Okay? So I just want to have us bear that in mind. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look at threonine, glycine, and serine catabolism. Okay, so our first enzyme is called threonine dehydrogenase. So we're going to kick it off with threonine. And our threonine has this hydroxyl group on it. And specifically, when we dehydrogenate it, we're going to get a ketone or a carbonyl, right? We're going to get a carbonyl. And so that carbonyl is preparing it for a nucleophilic HCl substitution. And of course, in the process of doing this reaction, we get an NADH. So those electrons from threonine get funneled into a hydride that's now in the form of NADH. Okay? Now, what we've done in this reaction by dehydrogenating the hydroxyl group is we have this ketone now. I'll do this in blue. We have this ketone, right, or this carbonyl. And what we've done is we've prepared that molecule, 2-amino-3-ketobutyrate, for a nucleophilic HCl substitution. And it's going to do the substitution with coenzyme A. And so what we're effectively going to do is we're going to split this bond right here. Okay? Now, if you look to the left of that purple line and you picture a coenzyme A attached, well, that's just acetyl-CoA, right? And we see that we do get an acetyl-CoA. Now, the acetyl-CoA is a ketogenic product, right? So this acetyl-CoA is now going to go into ketone body biosynthesis, also called KB, for ketone bodies, right? When we're doing this process in the liver, you have to keep in mind that the liver is taking all that oxaloacetate and funneling it into glucose biosynthesis, right? It's funneling it into gluconeogenesis. So if you picture the CCA cycle, and you picture the other phase of oxaloacetate, it's citrate synthase, right? Citrate synthase would normally take acetyl-CoA and condense it with oxaloacetate to make citrate, right? But if the oxaloacetate is being funneled into gluconeogenesis, you're effectively taking it away from the CCA cycle, right? So my question to you is this: will citrate synthase have its other substrate? And the answer is no. Citrate synthase will not have the oxaloacetate because that's going into gluconeogenesis. So even though it has acetyl-CoA, you're not going to be able to do the reaction citrate synthase because it lacks one of the substrates. So in general, when you generate acetyl-CoA in the liver during the fasted state, you're not going to funnel the acetyl-CoA into the CCA cycle, okay? And the reason being is because you need to synthesize glucose to put in the blood, and that's what the purpose of oxaloacetate is. So citrate synthase doesn't have its other substrate, right? So the acetyl-CoA doesn't go into the CCA cycle. It instead goes the other direction into ketone body biosynthesis, okay? So I just want to make that perfectly clear. So we've seen that 2-amino-3-ketobutyrate-CoA ligase is a ketogenic process, okay? We generate our first acetyl-CoA. And also keep in mind that this NADH will go and fuel the respiratory chain of the liver cell that we're talking about, right? NADH fuels into NADH-ubiquitin oxidoreductase, which is a complex one of the mitochondria, and that pumps 4 protons from the matrix into the intermembrane space, thus powering ATP synthase with a proton gradient, okay? So we're getting lots of energy doing this. And of course, when acetyl-CoA goes and makes the ketone body will be dumped into the blood and goes to peripheral tissues. Okay, enough on that. Now, at this point, what we do is we generate glycine. So this molecule right here, this is glycine. This is glycine, right? Now, effectively, what you can say from this next reaction of serine hydroxy methyltransferase is, on some level, it's going to take 2 glycines. Now, that's not entirely true, and for more elucidation on this, go into the tetrahydrofolate video. But for instance, we're going to need for serine hydroxy methyltransferase in the catabolic direction, we're going to need something called N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate, and that's this molecule that's shown right here. N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate. We need that to make serine. Okay? Now, one of the ways we can get N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate is by using this enzyme system right here called the glycine cleavage enzyme, also referred to right here as the glycine cleavage system. Okay? That's one way we can get N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate. Now, there are other ways to get N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate, so this isn't the only way. It's not the only. In other words, we don't just have to use glycine to get it. We can get it through other methods using tetrahydrofolate biosynthesis. But on some level, we can use 2 molecules of glycine to get serine. So I just want to make that perfectly clear. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a pseudo mechanism for the glycine cleavage system, just so we can get a kind of an understanding of what's happening in this mechanism. Okay. Again, we're not looking at arrow pushing or anything like that. We're just trying to get a broad understanding. Now, what we have to understand about the glycine cleavage system is it's divided into 4 parts. There are 4 loosely attached proteins that interact with each other. You can sort of view it in the center. There's the H subunit. And if you notice on the H subunit, you have this guy right here. This is lipoate, right? So there's a lipoate that's bound to a lysine residue in the H subunit. And the H subunit, through its lipoate, is able to interact with both the P, the T, and the L subunits. And each one of those other subunits has a separate function. For instance, the P subunit is designed to form a shift-base linkage between glycine and the pyridoxal phosphate, and then that performs the decarboxylation. Okay? And in the process of doing that, it binds the remains of glycine, in other words, the carbon skeleton of glycine, it binds that to the lipoid, okay? The T subunit transfers that carbon skeleton onto tetrahydrofolate, and that makes N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate. Now, in the process of doing this T subunit reaction, we generate totally reduced lipoid. So the L subunit is going to perform the redox reaction necessary to regenerate the resting state of the H subunit. So I hope this picture makes a little bit of sense. T subunit does the decarbosylation, T subunit synthesizes N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate, and L subunit regenerates the resting state of the enzyme. And this is not like these are not like an attached quaternary structure type of proteins. These are actually fairly loosely associated proteins. Okay, that's why it's not called the glycine. It doesn't have like a defined name like pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. It's simply just called the glycine cleavage system. All of this is a bunch of loosely associated proteins that just happen to be catalytically active together. Okay, so let's look at the mechanism. So notice that we have at least right here, notice that we have a pyridoxal phosphate attached to the P subunit. And of course, at rest, the pyridoxal phosphate has an aldehyde attached to it. That's the name pyridoxal phosphate, right? And the first step of the mechanism is going to be a shift-base attachment between pyridoxal phosphate and glycine. And we know that shift-base linkage right here. Specifically, it's a protonated shift-base linkage. And essentially what's going to happen in the step between B and C is you're going to have a shift-base hydrolysis around the same time in the mechanism that you have the decarbosylation. So this carbon dioxide, or this carboxyl group, leaves as carbon dioxide. And as you hydrolyze the shift-base, it ligates to the lipoate. And we note that ligation right here. So the lipoate breaks its oxidized bond, in other words, the disulfide bridge, and attaches to the glycine skeleton. Okay? Now, at this point, in the step between C and D, this is the point in which N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate is made, right? This is the point. And in the process, you lose ammonia. Okay, so we note the ammonia loss right here. And this guy right here, oops, go back. Where was it? Not sure what happened. Hold on. Okay, yeah. This guy right here, this is our N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate, okay? And that's going to be used for both serine biosynthesis, or we could say glycine catabolism, okay? Because in this reaction, we're ultimately going to form serine, okay? And then what happens is we have the totally reduced form of the lipoate, right? And that's no use to us because the mechanism requires that we start in the fully oxidized form. So this COF enzyme right here, which is FAD, this is going to perform the oxidation to get the lipoate back into its oxidized form. And in the process, we generate FADH2. Note that right here. Okay, but FAD, like most poisons, is covalently, or at least it's severely, strongly interacting with the protein. So what you have to do is you have to re-oxidize FADH2 back to FAD, and this is accomplished by NAD oxidation. So NAD performs the oxidation and gets reduced to NADH, and we note that right here. So what are our net products from this reaction? Well, we get carbon dioxide, which is noted here. We get ammonia, right? That's generated in the step between C and D, right? We also get N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate and an NADH. Okay, so those are our products. Okay, and of course we note the NADH right here. Okay, and now we have N5-enten methylene tetrahydrofolate. That's going to react with another molecule of glycine in serine hydroxymethyltransferase. Okay, and this particular reaction is going to make serine. Okay, this is going to make serine. And serine hydroxymethyltransferase is another, it's another pyridoxal phosphate dependent reaction. Okay, and so at this point we've seen the biosynthesis of serine, or at least one biosynthesis, and we're looking at the catabolic pathway for glycine. So now serine is going to react with another pyridoxal phosphate-dependent reaction called serine dehydratase. And the first step of the mechanism is going to be cleavage of water, okay? It's going to be cleavage of water, okay? And then we're going to hydrolyze off ammonia. Okay, so this is going to be a reaction in which we produce ammonia. Now keep in mind that up to this point, we've seen two reactions where we produce ammonia. I'll do these in orange. Glycine cleavage enzyme produces ammonia, and so does serine dehydratase. This is going to be ammonia. Now keep in mind that during times of fasting, when we're doing amino acid oxidation, the urea cycle is going to be running full force. And the reason the urea cycle runs full force is because we're producing a lot of ammonia, right? So the ammonia is going to get activated by carbonyl phosphate synthetase 1, generating carbonyl phosphate, and then we transfer the carbonyl group to ornithine by ornithine transcarbamylase, right? That goes into the urea cycle to make citrulline, and then we excrete it as urea, right? So the urea cycle will be running full force, and that's going to be the fate of the ammonia that we generate in amino acid oxidation. And then at the end of serine dehydratase, we have pyruvate. So we can say there's a pyruvate through a series of about 11 steps, right? The pyruvate will be shunted into gluconeogenesis to form glucose. So in this sense, the pyruvate is a glucogenic product. So what have we seen so far in this catabolic pathway? Well, we've seen the production of acetyl-CoA, which goes to form ketone bodies. Therefore, we can say that threonine is a ketogenic amino acid, right? But threonine also ultimately gets created to pyruvate, so we say threonine is also glucogenic, right? Now, glycine and serine at this point don't get degraded to acetyl-CoA. They just get degraded to pyruvate. So we would say that serine and glycine are glucogenic, okay? Because they get degraded to pyruvate, and that pyruvate can be shunted into gluconeogenesis to form glucose. And I hope this made a little bit of sense. And in another video, we'll actually look at the catabolic pathway for tryptophan, alanine, and cysteine, okay? So real quickly, I wanted to make a quick recap of what we've seen, okay? Threonine is going to get dehydrogenated by threonine dehydrogenase. In the process, we generate an NADH, which fuels NADH-ubiquitinone oxidoreductase, which is complex 1 of the mitochondria. That creates a proton gradient by pumping 4 protons from the matrix into the intermembrane space, and that powers ATP synthesis, right? In the process, we generate 2-amino-3-ketobutyrate, which reacts with the 2-amino-3-ketobutyrate ligase. Now, it's important that we generated that ketone or that carbonyl because that activates 2-methyl-butyrate for nucleophilic acyl substitution with coenzyme A. In the process, we get acetyl-CoA, which goes on to make ketone bodies, which get dumped into the blood, right, to fuel peripheral tissues, and we also generate glycine. Now, on the side here, we have glycine reacting with the glycine cleavage enzyme, right? In the first step, we create a shift-base linkage between glycine and pyridoxal phosphate. Then we decarboxylate, hydrolyze the shift-base linkage, and attach the glycine skeleton to lipoate. Then we deaminate while forming N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate, which is going to be used by serine hydroxymethyltransferase. And we also, in the process, generate totally reduced lipoate, which gets reoxidized to oxidized lipoate by FAD, generating FADH2. We regenerate the resting state of FAD by using NAD to reoxidize FADH2 back to FAD, which reduces NAD to NADH. Okay? Now let's just do a quick recap of what the glycine cleavage enzyme is actually doing, or we use the glycine cleavage system. You have this H subunit that interacts with all other three subunits, the P, the G, and the L subunits. H subunit has the lipoate. In one state, it interacts with the P subunit, which forms the shift-base linkage between glycine and pyridoxal phosphate, and then you decarboxylate, hydrolyze the shift-base linkage, and attach the glycine skeleton onto lipoate. The T subunit then takes it further by forming N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate and fully reduced lipoate. Then the H subunit rotates to interact with the L subunit, which oxidizes lipoate back to oxidized lipoate. In the process, it reduces FAD to FADH2. Then NAD reoxidizes FADH2 back to FAD, thus in the process reducing NAD back to NADH. Okay? So I want to make that perfectly clear. That's the glycine cleavage system. In the process, we generate N5-N10 methylene tetrahydrofolate, which will react with serine hydroxymethyltransferase and glycine in a pyridoxal phosphate-dependent reaction to make serine. Then we dehydrate serine and then hydrolyze off the ammonia using a shift-base hydrolysis, and we make pyruvate. And that pyruvate is going to go on into gluconeogenesis to make glucose. So we can say that glycine and serine are both glucogenic, right? They get degraded to pyruvate. And keep in mind that the ammonia also gets settled into the urea cycle, okay? So I hope this video will give you a little bit of intuition on threonine, glycine, and serine catabolism. In other videos, we'll look at the other three amino acids that degrade to pyruvate. See you in the next video. Welcome back. This should be a really short to the point video. In this video, we're going to look at the degradation pathway for cysteine. And as we'll find, the degradation of cysteine to pyruvate occurs in two enzymatic steps. Cysteine levels in the blood are fairly tightly controlled. One thing we must understand about cysteine is you don't want a lot of it in the blood. If you have an excess of cysteine in the blood, it can cause cysteine toxicity, and that's not good. So in other words, we have to control the cysteine levels somehow. One of the ways we control cysteine levels in the blood is by catabolizing it down to pyruvate. And the rate-limiting and committed step in this catabolic pathway is catalyzed by cysteine dioxygenase. Okay? So this enzyme effectively removes cysteine from the blood and the cell. And it's going to irreversibly dioxygenate the sulfur atom right here on cysteine. So both atoms of molecular oxygen are going to get incorporated into the cysteine molecule on the sulfur atom. And what that generates is this molecule right here, which is called sulfinoalanine. And the reason it's called sulfinoalanine is because it has the sulfino group. And if you were to look at the rest of the molecule, well, hey, that's just alanine, right? Or you could call it an alanyl group, right? So that's the name sulfinoalanine. Now, sulfinoalanine really stands at a crossroad in liver cell metabolism. The sulfinoalanine can go one of two directions. Either it can go and be degraded to pyruvate through the next enzyme, or it can go into something called taurine biosynthesis. And we won't go into a whole lot of detail here about taurine, but effectively what it is it's a molecule that can be ligated to certain bile acids to make them more hydrophilic, and it's used in digestion of fats in the duodenum. Okay, so taurine would be used there. So that's one direction it can go, but the direction we're going to consider here is the direction of cysteine catabolism. Okay, now what happens if cysteine is present in large amounts? Well, like we said, you don't want a whole lot of it in the blood because it can cause acute cysteine toxicity. So the cell reacts by making more of this enzyme, cysteine dioxygenase. But what happens if cysteine levels fall in the blood? Well, those levels are sensed, and what ends up happening is to prevent dangerously low levels of cysteine through catabolism, this enzyme cysteine dioxygenase is ubiquitinated. And when you ubiquitinate a protein, what that means is you're transferring molecules of ubiquitins, which are other proteins, onto the protein itself. And when a proteasome, which is a molecular garbage can, when it recognizes a protein that has ubiquitin on it, it proteolyzes that protein. In other words, if you have protein A that has ubiquitin on it, the proteasome will recognize the ubiquitin molecule and it will proteolyze protein A. So in order to prevent extremely low levels of cysteine, ubiquitin is attached to cysteine dioxygenase and the enzyme would be degraded to prevent further catabolism. This allows cysteine levels to be fairly constant in the blood and to prevent unsafe levels either on the high or low end. But anyways, we get sulfinoalanine through this enzyme. Now we're going to run in the direction of cysteine catabolism, and sulfinoalanine will react with sulfinoalanine transaminase. And just like all transaminases, this is a pyridoxal phosphate-dependent reaction, right? And mechanistically, it's not this way, but from taking a test point of view, when you're trying to remember structures, you can effectively think of these reactions as substitutions between amines and carbonyls. So this is the alpha amine of cysteine. So in this alpha amine of sulfonylalanine, we can expect to see an alpha keto group in the next molecule when we do. So what we're doing is we're taking the molecule of alpha ketoglutarate and basically taking the amine from sulfonylalanine and placing it on the alpha carbon of alpha ketoglutarate. That's going to give us L-glutamate, right, and sulfonylpyruvate. Now, sulfonylpyruvate is going to undergo a spontaneous hydrolysis, meaning that it has a negative delta G and it occurs non-enzymatically. And so the bond that's going to be cleaved is this one right here. And in the process, we generate sulfite and pyruvate. Now, if you are a liver cell, the pyruvate that you generate is going to go into gluconeogenesis before glucose, and that glucose will be released by the hepatocyte into the blood to feed peripheral tissues. But you also don't want a lot of sulfite. So sulfite will react with an enzyme called sulfite oxidase. And sulfite oxidase catalyzes the incorporation of one atom of oxygen into sulfite to make sulfate. So this molecule right here, this is sulfate. Okay, and as we know from biosynthesis, the sulfate can be incorporated into 3'-phosphoadenylate to make PAS. And PAS can be used for sulfate transfers in certain enzymatic reactions. So let's do a quick recap of this reaction scheme. Cysteine reacts with the rate-limiting and committed step in its metabolism, which is cysteine dioxygenase, which incorporates both atoms of molecular oxygen into the sulfur atom of cysteine, generating sulfonylalanine. Remember that this enzyme is regulated by ubiquitination. In other words, if cysteine levels rise, this enzyme is non-ubiquitinated. But if cysteine levels fall, in order to prevent extremely low levels of cysteine in the blood, cysteine dioxygenase is ubiquitinated and a proteasome proteomizes the enzyme. This gives us sulfonylalanine, which gets transaminated by sulfonylalanine transaminase to give us sulfonylpyruvate. Now, one thing I did not mention earlier, I do want to be sure to mention this, is that sulfonylalanine transaminase is the same enzyme as aspartate transaminase. And what I want to do is this. I want to ask you a question. Look at the structure of sulfonylalanine. And my question to you is, what's an amino acid that looks very similar to that that's one of our primary 20? Well, if you look at the structure of this, okay, we still have our alpha carboxyl group, we have our alpha amine, we have our alpha carbon that's right here in my mouse list, and we have a beta carbon, and then what if I have this? Right? What if I have this? Well, structurally, this is aspartate, right? And structurally, aspartate looks very similar to sulfonylalanine. Now, of course, this carbon atom right here, of course, this carbon atom is a lot smaller than the sulfur atom, right? But they do look very similar, okay? If you were to look at the rest of the molecule, right, it's just alanine, right? Just like it's alanine here, right? This group right here, this is just an alanyl group. And so then you just have this negative charge that's attached to that alanyl group. In the case of sulfonylalanine, it's a sulfonyl group. In the case of aspartate, it's a carboxyl group. So structurally, they're very similar to each other. And that's why sulfonylalanine transaminase is the same enzyme as aspartate transaminase. They're one and the same. In other words, another way of saying this is that sulfonylalanine reacts with aspartate transaminase. Okay? And remember that aspartate transaminase is both a mitochondrial and a cytosolic enzyme. Keep that in mind. Okay? So sulfonylalanine reacts with aspartate transaminase and you get sulfonylpyruvate. Sulfonylpyruvate undergoes a spontaneous hydrolysis, and that bond that line that's in purple represents the bond that's being cleaved, and we get pyruvate and sulfite. Pyruvate goes into gluconeogenesis, assuming that you're a liver hepatocyte, and the glucose gets dumped into the blood and feeds peripheral tissues. The sulfite gets oxidized by sulfite oxidase for sulfite, which is a less toxic version of a sulfur oxygen-containing compound. So I hope this video gives you a little bit of intuition on cysteine metabolism. See you in the next video. Welcome back. In the last video, I mentioned that there were ways that we could essentially convert L-serine to D-serine. And it's not that we're the only organisms that can do this. In fact, there are lots of other organisms like bacterial cells that can actually do this readily. In fact, they, in large part, convert a lot of their L-amino acids to D-amino acids. Okay? And in general, in humans, when we do this to L-serine to make D-serine, this is going to be a pyridoxal phosphate-dependent racemization. Okay? And the enzyme that catalyzes this in humans is called serine racemase. Okay? And if you remember from the last video, I mentioned that the reason it's called a racemase is that effectively you're racemizing your concentration of serine. You're taking a lot of the L-serine and converting some of it into D-serine. So you're not going to actually make a racemic mixture, but I think it gets the point across. You're taking some of your L-isomers and converting them into D-isomers. So what this enzyme is going to do is it's going to take L-serine and it's going to isomerize the alpha carbon. So if we look here at serine, we see here's the alpha carbon in orange, okay? And we're basically going to take the L stereoisomer and convert it into a D. And this mechanism is dependent on pyridoxal phosphate. Okay, which is one reason why you should definitely get your vitamin B6, right? Because B6 needs to convert it to pyridoxal phosphate. You absolutely need B6 to do this, but that's beside the point. Okay, so at rest, the pyridoxal phosphate is going to be covalently bound in a shift-based linkage to a lysine residue in the active site. So this is a phosphate charge. It's covalently bound to a lysine residue. And there are, of course, residues in the active site that keep this oxygen with a negative charge, that keep this nitrogen at the pyridine ring protonated, and so forth. But effectively what's going to happen is we're first going to create the linkage between the L-amino acid, in this case serine, and the pyridoxal phosphate. So the alpha amine of the serine is going to start off in the deprotonated state, and it's going to do a nucleophilic attack on this carbon of pyridoxal phosphate. That's going to effectively kick these pi electrons onto the nitrogen that's part of the lysine. And so you should generate this linkage between serine and pyridoxal phosphate, but you still have the pyridoxal phosphate in a single bond to the lysine residue in the active site. So not only is the pyridoxal phosphate attached to the lysine, now you have the amino acid covalently attached. Okay, and at this point, what's going to happen is you're going to have a beta elimination. Okay, so keep in mind that there's a lone pair on this nitrogen that's part of the lysine residue. What's going to attack one of the protons that's on the alpha amine of the serine, and that's going to initiate the beta elimination. Okay, so this is going to be a concerted process in E2 elimination, bimolecular, and so forth. And what that's going to do is create a protonated shift-based linkage between the serine amino acid and the pyridoxal phosphate. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that the serine at this point, or basically what was the serine, of course now it's the shift-base, but what was the serine has L-stereoisomerism. Okay, so this carbon, again, that I'm putting, let me do it in purple. This carbon right here, this is the L isomer. We haven't changed the stereochemistry of that carbon. Everything's still the same, so it's still the L isomer. What I really want to do in this video is not have you memorize or learn a mechanism blindly, but to really understand this mechanism, because this hopefully should give